Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I'm Anish Gupta,
I'm Srikar.
and today we've got a pretty heavy slate, lots of news again. I mean, this offseason just seems to be crazy, like
Come on,
so
man.
many
They
things.
can't give us a break.
I know, and oh man. All right. Well, I mean, you want to maybe say how your football weekend was real quick? I mean, I don't even because I feel like everyone's was just in shock after all the stuff that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, as it's been for the past few weeks, it's been very hectic, very chaotic. Obviously, we have a lot of moves coming in. I say this, a lot, but it's a 24/7 news cycle with the NFL. It just stuff never stops. There's always rumors, there's always breaking news, there's always stuff going on to look forward to. And we got the draft in what, 4 or 5 weeks? I mean, it's really coming up on us. And man, this is a great offseason so far. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a Browns fan, this past weekend was interesting to say the least. So why don't we just get right into it? So on
Go ahead.
Friday at around what, like 11:30 a.m. or something, or maybe like 12:30, I was heading back home on a train, and I get a little notification, and then more came in, and then to the point where just everybody was texting me about Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. And, I mean, when I got the news, I was just in shock because he'd initially said no, right? He was down to the Saints and the Falcons, but Andrew Berry and his staff basically came in and said, we really still want you. And they offered him a 5-year, 230 mil contract, fully guaranteed, which is $80 million more than Aaron Rodgers, who has the highest guaranteed money up until, Friday. And, basically to kind of recap it, right? Watson said no to them, but then the kind of the offers that Atlanta and the Saints were giving weren't like, they were kind of retracting a little bit back. And then Watson's agent said, what are you guys still interested in? Cleveland said, hell yeah, we're going to give you a second offer. And the 230 mil was, I think, what Watson could not refuse. And then also there was a story that came out today that said he was just in love with Cleveland's roster and he felt like he had the best chance to win, especially behind that offensive line. So before we kind of get into the football things, I did want to give a quick disclaimer, especially because what is going on, off the field with Deshaun Watson. And the Browns did wait 2 days to actually post it on their social media, whereas the Texans did it right away. And part of it was because, of the backlash that they expected to get. And they did get. If you look at their Instagram post, that's comments are split, 50-50. Actually, I would honestly say even more, against the trade. And everyone, anyone has every right to be kind of angry at it. And though Watson's not facing any criminal charges, there are still 22 civil cases that have yet to be solved. And obviously, the NFL will go through investigation with it. And, I don't want to say, I think both of us are not going to take a side on that. I'm not going to say whether I think he's innocent or guilty because, frankly, I just don't know enough on it. And I don't want to, take a side on that. But what I will say is, I think the NFL will I hopefully get it right. And whether that's a 6-game suspension, whether that isn't any, I think that's yet to be determined. But just a quick disclaimer, right? We don't know what the off the field issues is.
Mhm.
And I don't want to really say whether he's innocent or not. But I guess that's still on the table for not only the Browns to figure out, but the NFL as well, and Deshaun Watson. So with that being said, I think now we can get into the football side, and I'll take the Browns side, and then maybe Shrikar can get into the Texans. And who knows, maybe if we disagree on anything, we'll say. But for the Browns, from a football perspective, of course, this is just a slam dunk of a move. I know you give up a lot. I think it's now 6 picks instead of 5. The trade package got a little bit updated. I can kind of read it to you. It's what? I think Watson and a 2024 fifth for 3 firsts, 2022, 2023, 2024, a third round pick, and a sixth round pick now in 2024. So that's the full package. It's a big one. I think this is the biggest pick trade, package in history. But you get a guy who we last saw lead the league in passing with his number one receiver being Brandon Cooks and his second receiver being Randall Cobb. So this guy is really, really talented, a top 5 talent to say the least. And, I know he's been over a year out of, the NFL game speed, but his talent is undeniable. And at 26 years old, he is at the prime of his career. And he goes to a team with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, an offensive line with Jedrick Wills, Joe Batonia, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, Pro Bowls all around the defense as well, right? I mean, it's just a great fit, and he now is arguably the best quarterback in that division. I think it's between him and Burrow, and take your pick, but I think Watson has a little bit more of that off script ability that Joe Burrow may not have. So now the Browns at least are in discussions long term with the Bengals and Ravens of who runs this AFC North because, with Baker Mayfield, we'll probably touch on it later. It's just Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback. He is a better talent. As much as I love Mayfield or I'll defend him, we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from a football perspective, it is tremendous. And yes, they gave up a lot, but I think the thing we need to realize is that if your quarterback is playing great, you can't pay him enough because he's succeeding. He's giving you what you want. And it'll for Patrick Mahomes, despite all the money, he got him a Super Bowl. Like that's priceless. So if Watson gives you a chance to do that, I am totally okay with the move. And I think again, this is more of a long-term investment rather than just for this year. He's only 26 and he's locked up till he's 31. And he could get another contract at 31. And we've seen how long quarterbacks can play at a high level. We're seeing Brady do it. We're seeing Rodgers do it. So I think this is a tremendous move, and we've got him locked up, and he seems excited about it. So that's my thoughts for the Browns, and I'll let Srikar take it over for the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that. So this afternoon, I made a power ranking, I guess, of sorts of all the teams in the AFC. I had the Browns third in the division, and
I disagreed with you a little bit on that. I waited for the episode to do it.
Here's the thing. I'm talking only for this year, and I expect Watson to not play, around half the year. So it weighed a lot. Here's what I will say. I think 2023 is the year that, the Browns will really get this thing rolling and they'll really jump up, the power rankings here. Because if you're running with Jacoby Brissett for half the season or so, I mean, I can't really put you much higher. I can't put you over a healthy Ravens squad. I can't put you over the Bengals who just went to a Super Bowl. Like, this is just how it is. But I think 2023, I think that's going to be the year for the Browns. And obviously, as Anish said, it's a long-term investment. You got him until you're 31. And he's going to be entering his prime years, which is pretty scary to think about with this Browns roster, which is great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For Houston, though, if I were the Texans, I would see what Davis Mills can do with a full season. As well as that, I mean, an off-season working with a new coaching staff. You got Lovie Smith there. If he's the answer beyond this year, I mean, the Texans can utilize their draft capital. You can continue to build around him. If not, then Mills can definitely be replaced with one of those picks, and he can either stay as a good backup or you can obviously flip him for more selections. I would say the Texans have a lot more questions than answers, but I think Davis Mills is an interesting player for them at QB. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with that whole situation there. But it's definitely a team that's still undergoing a very, very long rebuild that, is almost like it's just starting with this Deshaun Watson trade, even though last year was really the year that we knew they would be rebuilding. So for Houston fans, I mean, I'm sorry. Just be patient here, but at least you unloaded Watson. I guess if you're the front office, that's somewhat of a good move in hindsight, but oh man, it sucks to see him go, especially with how much potential, we saw out of him. Like, we thought Houston would be competing for years with him. So it sucks to see, but at least now you're getting a jump start here.
Yeah, I mean, they were 2 games away from a Super Bowl
Yeah.
2019. So, I mean, it's like he had 2 straight division titles, right? And he won a playoff game against Josh Allen. So it's not like they didn't do anything with him, right? And I think the sky was the limit for a team like Houston. But now I'm really happy with the package they got back. If I'm Houston, right? Like you now have 3 years with multiple first round picks. I mean, the way you can build this team is just, it's endless opportunities, right? And I think just find some stability at head coach. And they've got some players, right? It's not like this roster is completely terrible. And obviously you want to kind of start out young and see if there's a guy out there, right? Like, as you mentioned, is Davis Mills the answer? I think this is the year to find out. And if not, you've got 2 first round picks in 2023 if you want to go get a quarterback, right? Because let's face it, I think they'll probably be, at the bottom tier of the AFC this year. I just don't think.
I think they're the worst team in the AFC.
Personally. Yeah, as of right now, I mean, I don't like Lovie Smith as, a long-term answer. And I think right now I would probably say that the Jags are better. And I mean, just even like the bottom tier, like you'd probably have to go with.
I'd go with the Jags and Jets over the Texans, but I think those 3 are easily the bottom tier. Like,
yeah, I mean, for Houston though, right? Like, I mean, from an offensive perspective, right? Davis Mills, like he doesn't even have that many, like he
He's
doesn't even have
limited.
that many weapons. But I guess the draft capital is key because now they have what, the third pick and the 13th pick,
13.
right? So that there's some potential there. Like
Right, but
there's
even at those picks, what if they decide to go defense? I mean, this whole roster needs a giant revamp in like the worst ways. Like you could go Kyle Hamilton at 3, at 13. You know, I don't know.
maybe a
Maybe you could
receiver,
go after
maybe.
receiver potentially. You still got Brandon. You still got Brandon Cooks, right? Who knows? I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but it's best player available for them 100%.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, well, going back to the Browns, I want to say this too from a football perspective, of course. There is a slight concern with Watson and Cooper in cold weather, right? Like because these guys have played in warm weather their entire lives. Like it's not like these guys are used to it, and Cleveland has bad weather starting in October. So
Yeah.
it's not like these guys can't adjust. I mean, like Watson played well in that divisional round in the first quarter. Like they were up 24-0. It wasn't just a fluke, right? So it's not like he has never done it. It's just now can you do it consistently, right? And when they're going to be practicing over the summer, it's going to be in warm weather, right? When because I'm sure Watson and Cooper will get together
Yeah.
somewhere, maybe in Texas or something, maybe in Cleveland, who knows? But even in Cleveland, it's going to be warm at that time of year. So that's a bit of a concern that I have. Um, but again, in terms of the AFC North, I mean, this is just going to be a bloodbath. And like the AFC is just, it's so stacked. Like
It's too stacked.
I know. And I mean, Deshaun Watson, obviously, I'm just glad the whole saga has ended, right? It's been a year. And if you had told me a year ago that we would have gotten him, I would have laughed in your face. I mean, because, I mean, we'll wait till maybe, I mean, if you want to transition it now,
Yeah, do it.
to Baker Mayfield.
Mhm.
I I'll start off.
Sure.
I'm kind of heartbroken. Like it really sucks how he's getting treated right now. Like he does not deserve this. I'm sorry. I mean, I made a post on my little Instagram page for it. I mean, it hurts so bad to see a guy who took us from 1-31 to a playoff win, and people are just regarding him like he can't play in this league. And he has had two stretches where you could regard him as a top 10 QB in the entire NFL, and people are just scoffing at the fact that he can ever be good again. I mean, this is a guy who up until he separated his shoulder had a 97 passer rating, right, and had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So it's not like the guy can't play. And the way Browns fans are kind of treating it, obviously now they're a little bit more of a split once we got Watson, but I mean, you can also point to the fact that maybe he handled the whole situation prematurely, but I think his final straw was when the Browns said they wanted an adult at quarterback, right? And
Yeah.
they were openly going to Houston, right, on Jimmy Haslam's private plane without telling him. I think that frustrated me, the Baker fan in me, the most, just because it's your best quarterback in 20 years and you couldn't even tell him, right? So I mean, if I'm frustrated, imagine him. But maybe if you want to talk about where Baker could go at this point, who are the suitors, because there's not that many left. But I mean, maybe also can answer this, like, can he still play in this league?
Well, I'll answer that latter question first. I 100% think he still can. I mean, he's a number one overall pick for a reason. You don't give up on guys like that, especially with what he's shown us that rookie year. Obviously 2020, he led the Browns to their first playoff one. Of course, he can still play. If he can turn around that franchise, I can't write him off. But he's the next big quarterback domino. Obviously, we saw Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. We're getting Matt Ryan in Indy. We'll dive into that more in a bit. Baker Mayfield is that next domino. So he has a year left on his rookie deal. He's got a cap hit of $18.8 million. So it's pretty good. He has the
It's not
upside of a
bad, yeah.
potential extension. As I looked around at the NFL landscape, there is one team that made the absolute most sense to me, and it's the Seattle Seahawks. For Seattle, I mean, Mayfield, he's not going to vault them out of the basement, but look, the Seahawks are loaded with picks after the Wilson deal. If the Seahawks really want Mayfield like that, I mean, they can definitely get him. But still, I don't know if they will, because you could obviously draft a quarterback, in April, you got a top 10 pick, or you could even wait until next offseason when the rookie crop is going to be much stronger. So I think Mayfield, he's going to be the next domino. He's going to be the next guy to be traded. The question is where. If I had to guess, I'm going to say Seattle.
I want him to go to Seattle really badly. Like, look, this notion that Baker can't play is a whole bunch of BS. I'm sorry. Like, it is so wrong, Uh,
Yeah.
if I mean, and it's not even me being biased. Just watch the tape. I mean, this guy literally had an 11 game stretch, and I know whoever watches Skip and Shannon, they know this thing gets brought up way too much, but it can't be ignored that he had 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, right? And was graded the fourth best quarterback of 2020. I just cannot ignore that stretch, right? And I think for Baker Mayfield, right, it's just he was playing 14 games on terrible mechanics because of, as I've mentioned, right, torn labrum, fully separated shoulder, right, with the crack in the bone, and he had a pulled groin, left and right knee soreness, and a pulled heel. I mean, it's like this guy was literally hobbling on the field, right? And to his demise, and I said this ever since week 6, he should not have been on the field, right? That was his
Yeah.
ultimate doing. But the competitor in him, and that's what makes me love him so much. It's because he wants to go out there and he just wants to compete. And I think that's a perfect thing for Seattle right now, right? Because Drew Lock is not your answer. And it's not like Seattle is full of bums. I mean, like, they still have DK Metcalf. They still have Tyler Lockett. And if we're being honest, that's probably the best receiving core Mayfield is going into with, right?
Yeah, it
Because
is.
in 2019, yeah, you could argue Jarvis Landry and Odell, but both were hurt, right? Odell had the sports hernia. People forget about that. So I think this is a really good core that he'd be going into. And yeah, his offensive line isn't great, but he also played with a offensive line in 2021 that had 3 of its 5 starters missing for a lot of the time. So
Right.
people, I think, are forgetting a little bit of the circumstances that Baker was in. And I think Seattle, as you mentioned, is a great fit. He goes to the NFC, right, where it's wide open. It
Yeah,
really is. And the quarterbacks there are just, they're not that good. Like, that he could easily come in, right? And I think he has a ceiling of being the third best quarterback in the entire conference. Like,
he
I'm
does.
really being honest about that.
And if
I
it
think
wasn't
that's,
if it
yeah.
wasn't the Seahawks, I mean, maybe we could transition here. I'll let you get your final thought out. I would have said the Colts. I mean, that's the team he preferred, but they got their situation.
I would have loved to see Baker and Frank Reich. I'm actually afraid. I was actually going to be afraid of that he would, absolutely bite us in the butt if he went to Indianapolis. So I'm glad he's not. But just to kind of round out everything, as a Browns fan, obviously, there's not much of us out here, but it's a it's a bit of excitement and it's a bit of a bittersweet moment just because this is the guy that, man, like, he's the first quarterback that I've finally had stability with, and I could finally, he gave us the biggest thing that any Browns fan could ever hope for. Literally, I just said it, hope.
Yeah,
Every game I thought we had a chance because of that guy. I finally had hope for this team that just has let me down in so many different ways. But again, he gave me the greatest football moment of my life, and I'll never forget that. So,
well said.
a bit of a touching end there, but we'll kind of move it on to, a quarterback that just got traded today. And I'm glad it was today because knowing us, we probably would have recorded and then it would have happened the day after. But today morning, Matt Ryan, quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons for the last, 13, 14 seasons,
15 years.
uh, yeah, has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a third round pick, and the Falcons will eat up a little bit of his salary. I think they take a $40.5 million cap hit, while Indy has to pay him $24.8 million this year. So I'll let you get into your initial thoughts and take it from here.
First of all, I'll start with the Falcons here. I really don't like this trade for Atlanta, mainly because of that dead cap charge. $40.5 million is ridiculous. Anish was kind of saying it before in the CHT chat, but he didn't think they were going to take on all that money, and they ended up doing it. And I really don't like that they did, but it had to be done. This is a new regime. Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith have done a decent job to this point, but I feel like Matt Ryan had to go. And I hope for Atlanta, I really hope they get Malik Willis at 8. He's an Atlanta native.
Ooh, interesting. I disagree with that.
I've stated this before, but I would love him in Arthur Smith's system, an offensive-minded head coach. He's got Kyle
I don't
Pitts.
know if I agree with that because here's why, right?
Hmm.
I think they should wait till 2023. Like, because
That's fair, but if he's available at 8, I
I
don't
just
know.
don't. He's not the, like, if you compare him to Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or any one of these 2023 guys, I think they have far more potential. Like, I think Atlanta should be playing for that class because think about it, the bad teams going in next year, right? Like, the only one that may be looking for a QB is Seattle, right? Because Jacksonville, who we think was probably going to be at the bottom still, is not looking for one. They're still going to ride with T-Law, right? The Lions will probably pick one this year. If not ride with Goff, right? I think like they would be at the heart of that next year's class. And I think they
Even
should
then,
probably wait on it.
if you drafted Malik Willis and you sit him for a year behind Mariota, he could learn a lot from Marcus. I mean, he's won a
Yeah.
playoff game.
I would lean on no and rather get best player available. But I mean, also the dead cap hit, it's only for a year. So it's not
Right,
like,
it's off the books next year.
yeah.
But it's still a lot. I mean, and I'll get to the Colts now, but look, without Matt Ryan, I would say the Colts are like a bottom 5 team in the AFC. But with him, I think they are the best team in the division. I will say that first. I got them first in the division. I think they're a solid playoff contender. I could see them winning a game in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the divisional round. I really like this move for the Colts. And I think they really pivoted here because last week it was, kind of us hating on Chris Ballard a little bit. And now he pulls a Matt Ryan trade, and now you don't have to go with Sam Ehlinger. So I think is a great move for Chris Ballard. Hopefully he can bring some sense of stability to the Colts. Obviously, stability doesn't work well with QBs in Indy, but maybe he could give you something. He's really old, but I like him more
Not
than
that
Carson
old.
Wentz.
He's like what, 34?
He's older than that. I think
Oh,
he's
actually, no, he is. Yeah, he's like maybe 36.
37, 38, 39, somewhere around that. But
Yeah.
look, I think with Matt Ryan,
30.
I like him more than, I like him more than the Wentz trade last year. I like him more than a Phillip Rivers. I think he could definitely steal a game or two in the playoffs. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. So I think it's a great move for the Colts. Not a fan of it for the Falcons, but hopefully, they can rebound and get their guy.
All right. I'm going to say I think everyone won. I think the Falcons won in the sense long term, right? You get out of a potential extension with Matt, right? And you're not going to win with him. Like as unfortunate as it is, he's not going to be able to overcome a bad roster. Just it's not possible with he's just not that talented. Like he's not, in that sense, right? So I think Atlanta got out of that, and now they give themselves a chance to really rebuild, full on rebuild, because Matt's going to win you some games that you really shouldn't be winning. Now you have a chance. You're going to get a lot of cap space in 2023. Go out and build this team. I think that's a W for the Falcons in that respect. I think this is a massive W for the Colts. Like really, I am a big fan of this. And as much as, I was saying the Colts are overrated as a franchise because of Luck, Unitas, and Manning, this is the best thing they could have gotten because Matt Ryan is the definition of stability. He doesn't get hurt, and he's not a guy that's going to be brash or cocky off the field, right? He's a talented QB, and finally, I mean, we're talking about a guy who finally is going to get an offensive line, a really good running back and a pretty decent receiving core and a good defense in over 5 years.
They need a guy, across from Pittman, but yes.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, it's better than not having Calvin Ridley for 11 games last year, right?
Yeah.
So like, this guy's finally having a good defense. When is the last time you could say the Atlanta Falcons have had a good defense? Their Super Bowl year. That's literally it. And it was because of Ryan being so good on offense. I love this move. I'm really excited. Like, I think Matt Ryan as I agree with you, I think the Colts are the best team in the division right now. I think Matt Ryan will elevate, and I think people will really start to realize how good he still can be.
Right now, everything is on paper. I think they're knocking on the door of a top 5 AFC team, even with how stacked that conference is. They're knocking on the door. I'll ask this: do you think they should go out and get Julio Jones?
I wouldn't be opposed to it because they probably won't spend too much on him. So yeah, and obviously the chemistry with those two is unmatched. Right? It's just Julio's hamstring, which he hasn't had a good hamstring in 3 years. But I mean, yeah, like I would not be opposed to it. But here's what I'm also going to say, right? You know how much of a fan I am of Frank Reich. All the stuff aside with Wentz, it's objectively clear that Frank Reich is a really, really good head coach. This guy has won at least 7 or more games with Jacoby Brissett, Carson Wentz. No matter what QB you've thrown with him, he's found a way to win games. So you're giving him Matt Ryan, who I think is probably the best quarterback he's had since Andrew Luck. Sky's the limit for the Colts. I mean, barring any major injuries. And again, Matt Ryan finally has a Jonathan Taylor that he can hand the ball off to. He doesn't have to throw the ball all the time like Atlanta would make him do for the last 5 years. I would not be shocked if Matt Ryan were, top 5 in passing maybe, or maybe even if the Colts were as you said, a top 5 seed. Like this, I think people are really, really going to sleep on the Colts in that sense, just because, people recognize Matty as a middle of the pack QB. But I think with this Colts system, oh, he can for sure elevate that.
I think he's the best quarterback in the division too. I'd take him over Tannehill personally.
You know how much I love
You like
Tannehill.
Tannehill,
I
but
I gotta put him in the same tier, but you're right. I think
sure.
Tannehill's confidence has definitely been shattered after that last playoff win, especially because how the media turned on him. I mean,
Yeah.
because like this guy still won. I think he still went like 5-2 without Derrick Henry. So it's not like the dude couldn't do anything without him. And I think people are just forgetting that because of the 3 interceptions, and a couple of them weren't even his fault. But you're right. I would put him in the same tier. And I think with the Colts, I think Matt Ryan could be
Matt
better,
Ryan,
which is
yeah.
why I would rank the Colts number one. But yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say is just watch out for that team because they have a playoff caliber roster already, right? And now you get a guy who is way more stable. That's what you needed for the Colts at the quarterback position, which is why I think Wentz didn't really work out because he's too up and down, right? As much as I love the ups for him, right? He does have the downs that you have to take with him. With Matty, you get way less of that. So I think that's really big for a team like this. And I mean, hopefully they can get it right here, right? I think he is under contract next year as well, for 29 million. So his contract does end 2023. So that's another reason why Atlanta takes a dub because they don't have to pay that next year. But yeah, I think this is a massive W for Indy. I'm
We're
really
both
excited
fans
to
of
see it.
this. Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah. So you want to move on to the next topic, which I believe is the Von Miller signing for the Bills. You want to take that over?
Yeah. So Von Miller got signed for 6 years. It says 6 years, but realistically, I think it's going to be a 4-year deal. I think they have an out there. Um,
Mm-hmm. Told
he is
you.
he is turning 30. Well, I didn't. No. Hold on.
Voidable years. I was telling you the 6 years
I
doesn't.
never argue that. I never argue. I think it was some other people in that chat that said that. But yeah,
Jack. Yeah.
there's an out after 4 years. He's going to be turning 33 this offseason. So I know some people, didn't like it, but honestly, I love this signing. I would argue the Bills are the best team in football after this signing, personally. Look, Buffalo has needed an edge rush for years, and Miller, he's going to provide one with a championship pedigree. He's won Super Bowls with the Broncos. He won one with the Rams last year, and now he's going to try to win one more in Buffalo. He hasn't had double-digit sacks since 2018, which is the only part where I'm concerned, especially when you're giving him that massive deal. He's taking Brandon Beane. This is an expensive move. It's coming with risk. But if you want to win a title in this league, I think risk is necessary, and I think it's going to pay off for them because they're now strengthening, I'd say, the weakest part of that number one defense. And obviously, they've gone through losses of their own. They've lost John Feliciano, Cole Beasley. They lost Levi Wallace. To win against the quarterbacks in this conference, especially the contenders who all have star quarterbacks at this point, they knew that they needed to upgrade their front and get pressure. And I think Miller should do that. And if he does get pressure like I think he will, I think Buffalo can absolutely be in the Super Bowl, and I think they can win the Super Bowl. So I really love this move. I think this is a top 3 signing of the offseason so far for me.
Yeah, the Chiefs would like to have a word of you for the best team in the AFC, which I
I'm going Buffalo.
still got
With
KC.
all due respect to the Chiefs, I have them at 2. They lost Tarvarius
I
Ward. They're
can't.
losing Tyrann Mathieu. I'm going to say the Bills.
They still got number 15, and until
That's
he
fair.
until he disappoints me, he's still what 2-0 against Josh in the playoffs. I can't write them
It's
off. So
the defense.
here's what I'll say for the Von Miller signing. Again, yeah, it is kind of expensive. I agree. The annual salary is a little bit high. Again, I wasn't worried about the 6 years. They can easily get out of that. Here's the thing though. I'll touch on what you said about the double-digit sacks. That's not what they got him in for. Like this is clearly a playoff signing, right? So Vaughn came in. He didn't really do much in the regular season. His production came in the postseason. He was the best edge rusher in the 2021 NFL postseason, and you can look at the stats. You can back it up with that. I'm right on that. It was clear as day. He was the best edge rusher of the postseason. That doesn't mean defensive lineman. That doesn't mean front 7 player, because obviously Aaron Donald would like to have a word. But edge rusher, it was him. Obviously, he had 2 sacks in the Super Bowl, right? 3 QB hits, but it goes beyond that. He has experience in these big games. And here's the thing, right? The reason why he didn't have double-digit sacks is because the Denver Broncos were not playing with a lead, right? He was playing from behind. So teams would run. They wouldn't throw. Obviously, he got less chances to sack the quarterback because they weren't ahead. That's why he had all his double-digit sacks when Peyton Manning was there. Now, right, the Bills will probably be up in these games. They'll probably have to throw it. That's where he really makes his impact. And that's where you're going to see him pop out a little bit more in the regular season, right? That's why he popped out with the Rams when this team had a lead in those type of games. So I think it's a big signing in that retrospect. And obviously, alongside Greg Rousseau, I think they'll probably line him up on opposite sides. I think it's a slam dunk there. And yeah, as you mentioned, championship pedigree. It's added to a team that already has some playoff experience, but he can take them to the next level.
We'll
So
get them
I
over.
love the signing. Yeah. I mean, is there like, and even with it though, I'm sorry, I can't put him at one. I can't.
I'm putting them at one. And the only reason I understand you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs are going to be right there. It's the best offense in football. That defense scares me. It scares me for some reason.
Why? Like, I
Okay.
don't get it.
I
That
love
defense allowed 42 points in a playoff game.
Yes, but they lost Charvarius Ward. They're losing Tyrann. I love Justin Reed signing, by the way. I like that signing, but they're losing a big leader in Tyrann Mathieu. We'll see if Justin Reed is,
Oh, you're talking about the Chiefs defense. I thought you were talking about the Bills.
No, I'm talking about the
worried
Chiefs.
about them. I mean, in the playoffs, they allowed 42 points. They couldn't stop the Chiefs with 13 seconds. That was on the defense.
Right. I'm talking about the Chiefs defense, though.
I mean, you're right. Like the Chiefs
You lose
defense
Charvarius
obviously is
Ward and
worse.
you lose Tyrann Mathieu and you lose, a leader like that and one of the best corners in man. I mean, I don't know. I think the Bills deserve to be the favorites right now. And obviously, I think the odds were before the Miller signing. I think they were co-favorites.
Yeah.
But now I think the Bills are the odds-on favorite. I'm not sure how it is
I
anymore.
think it's still okay. It depends on the sports book.
But even then, another reason why I'd take the Bills at one, look at their division, look at Kansas City's division. I mean, the AFC West is going to beat each other up. I think the Bills can easily just cruise to a 1 seed if they really.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'll agree with you. I think the Bills will overcome the Chiefs if they play at home. I think that's where they'll get them.
But even like Arrowhead, they're gonna play him. They're gonna play him tight again.
I'm not picking the Bills at Arrowhead. Not in the postseason. I think if they're gonna get over the hump, they need to get that 1 seed. I think it's plain and simple.
I think they'll do it this year. I think they'll do it this year.
I hope so. I think it's slated for them to do it. And because I think the biggest thing that happened last year for them was they finally established themselves as a true number 1 dog in the AFC East. They told the Patriots in the final 2 games, I'll give you your credit, you predicted it. They said, hey, you may have beat us the first time, but we are here, and in the playoffs, they got them like that. That was a sounding win, and they finally said, hey, I think we've taken over as the number 1 team in the AFC East for years to come, right? Josh Allen is not slowing down anytime soon, and I finally get to talk about him a little bit because, I love me some Josh Allen, but yeah, he's ultra talented. I think people finally regard him where I thought he could be, and I think it's all about confidence. Like, this guy is genuinely a top 3 quarterback or 3 to 5, and man, next year, you're right. I think if it's just that one step. He just needs to pass number 15, and you're there. You're there. I think Mahomes is the only thing standing in his way. But if he gets through that, obviously, then I'm willing to call the Bills number 1. But I just can't do that right now until I see it.
Interesting. But we skipped over this. We got to talk about Davante Adams.
Ooh, yeah. We always skip something.
Yeah. Good thing we didn't forget this. I mean,
yeah, good thing we did. It's both times it's been about the Packers. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. So Davante Adams on Friday, I believe it was. Thursday. It was a day before Watson. So yeah, on Thursday.
No, it was Friday. It was Friday.
Friday? Okay. Yeah. So the Las Vegas Raiders traded for Davante Adams. Ziegler, the GM from New England, is making some serious moves. Chandler Jones and Adams in the same week, and he gets him for a first-round pick and a second-round pick, and they give him $28.2 million annually, making him the highest non-paid QB in football. You want to give your initial thoughts?
So there was a report that Adams apparently could have signed the same deal in Green Bay, but he wanted to play with his former Fresno State teammate Derek Carr. So which team wins the trade? I'm going to be honest.
Don't steal my thunder. Do not steal my little first round, sixth round pick thunder. I want to take that.
I'm not going to say that. I was going to say, I don't know if either team really won the trade. I'm not a giant fan of the move for either squad, and I'll get into it why. Like, look, the Raiders, they're trying to keep pace in the AFC West, but is getting Davante Adams really going to put them over the Chargers, Broncos, or Chiefs? For me, it's not. I mean, Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Justin Herbert. He's not Russell Wilson. I think there is a legit argument. I don't know if I'd make it, but I think there's an argument that Las Vegas should have bundled those draft picks and Carr's cap hit for an upgrade at quarterback and traded Derek Carr. As good as Derek Carr is he really? I'm not sure, but I've seen this argument around, and I think it's viable. But instead, Dave Ziegler, he swung big. He landed Adams, and it's a great addition to an offense that now has Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, and now you got Adams in the mix. But look, I'll say it again. Las Vegas is coming off a playoff appearance. I still think they're fourth in that division. And now you got a huge cap hit in the upcoming 2 years for a receiver who's, going to be 30 years old soon. Now, I'm not going to fault Ziegler for, getting into the arms race in the AFC, but this is a pretty costly move. And for the Packers, I mean, Adams had no leverage. If that report is true and Green Bay was willing to offer Adams the same contract, I mean, he's already on the tag. So he would need to be very brave not to sign that before July 15th, when the deadline for franchise tag players is there to sign a long-term deal. And also Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be 39 years old in December. And the Packers are coming off back-to-back seasons of being the 1 seed in the NFC and not reaching the Super Bowl. I mean, it's about winning right now, and trading Adams goes against that goal. But look, maybe the deal works out for both sides. Maybe it works out for one side. If I had to bet, it'll probably work out for Vegas. But right now, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of it for either side.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing. All right, so since we are sports media, I do want to say this. Devonte did not thank Aaron Rodgers in his little letter to Green Bay. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. We're sports media. We're going to do it. But one thing I will say to criticize the media is people are overreacting to this trade in so many different ways. And it frustrates the hell out of me because people don't deep dive. They just simply look at headlines. And I think that's not what we should be doing when we, really dive into this deal. Number one, the people are saying the Packers are absolutely dead without Davante. They've been 7-0 without Davante in their last 7 games. So let's not act like this team can't do anything without him. That's my first point. Second, right? Everyone's saying, "Oh my God, that's all they gave up? A first-round pick and a second-round pick?"
That's a lot. Come on.
That is a decent amount. Not to mention they have to pay for Davante's contract, and also, right? The last top 5 to top 10 receiver that was traded was Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs at the time, nobody regarded him in the top 5. Nobody. I'm sorry. He was coming off like an 1,100-yard season in 2019. So when he was traded, he was given the Vikings were given a first and a sixth, okay? And Davante, who is significantly better than Stephon Diggs at that time, right, and is significantly better still now, is getting a first and a second. So by market value, it was a fair price for the Packers to get. And the only reason people don't talk about that Diggs trade is because the first round pick that the Vikings got turned out to be Justin Jefferson. That's the only reason nobody brings it up. So I think, the Packers can easily get a receiver at that first round spot with ease. I think someone can easily fall. I think it's like around 22, right?
I think it'll be Chris Olave or Treylon Burks.
It's literally going to be the same pick that I think the Vikings got. I think the Vikings got like 23 or something. 22. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, people are overreacting to a lot of the things regarding this trade. But I do agree, right? Like losing Davante does hurt for Aaron Rodgers just because he's the only guy that he has confidence in throwing to. And we've seen it in the playoffs, right? The big 3rd and 11, he literally looked Davante's way the entire time. And he doesn't really trust Lazard and Valdez-Scantling, who their priority is to bring back. Yeah. But, from a football standpoint too, right? I will say that this does help Vegas a lot. Like, if you look at their core, right? Adams, Renfrow, and Waller. I mean, those are 3 really good weapons. And I think for Derek Carr, who's had a problem of fixating on one side before the snap, right? That problem gets a little bit solved because even if you have Davante on one side, now you have someone else to take that other side with you. So he's not going to necessarily fixate. And obviously they have college chemistry. So it's not like, they're going to have to readjust or anything. I think they'll be just fine. And look at the opposing defenses, right? Like, yes, they have J.C. Jackson, and yes, they have, Patrick Surtain and all this. And yeah, I mean, the Chiefs don't really have a number one aside for, maybe L'Jarius Sneed. But you really think any of those guys you're taking over Davante Adams? I'm not. I'm
Right, but I
not.
mean, if we're looking at it from a big picture perspective, are you taking them over any of the other three teams in that division?
I mean, my only problem is their offensive line, right? That's my biggest problem with them right now.
Mm.
And yeah, see, so you don't have high picks to fix it. That's my issue. They
And
gave up a lot.
look at the pass rushes on the other teams.
Yeah,
Like,
right. So I think that is why I'm saying the Raiders did have to pay a hefty price in getting Devontae. They had to sacrifice other moves for a guy like Davante Adams. So to just say the Raiders fleeced is completely untrue.
no, they didn't.
And for the Packers, right? You're basically putting all your faith in A-Rod now. And A-Rod signed his deal knowing that Devontae wouldn't come back.
Right.
So, I have the utmost, faith in Aaron Rodgers from a football perspective in the regular season. I think he's going to be just fine. I think the Packers will be just fine. They still have a great running core, still have a great offensive line. Bakhtiari is going to come back this year. I'm not worried. And honestly, to say the Raiders are fourth in the AFC West is literally only because you think Derek Carr is a significant drop off from the other three. That is the only reason I would say they are, because they were
Right,
second
but
last
it
year.
plays a factor.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's just, for me, it's too early to tell. The only way people are ranking the AFC West right now is by QB. Because if you really look at it, the
Actually,
Raiders
no,
didn't
no,
have the best roster.
I would say it's further than QB because first of all, the division. Second of all, Josh McDaniels. I mean, I'm not that high on the move. And that defense, aside from edge rush, I mean, it's not very good. But like, continue.
He's I think he's a better offensive coach than what they had, considering that they
It's
had
a
to let go
first
of
year
their
head
play
coach
caller
though. That's
mid-year.
it's a first year head coach against Brandon Staley. Obviously Hackett's a first year head coach as well, and then you got Andy Reid. So,
I mean,
I don't know.
here's my thing. Do I think they could split with all three teams? Yes. I think they can still split with all three. They have that type of potential, because I cannot ignore the confidence and the morale they have coming into next year fresh off a playoff appearance. When really we came in, I remember all three of us thought this roster wasn't good. They gave up 4 of their 5 offensive linemen, right?
Yeah,
Like this, they came in with the same questions that we're having now, and they still went 10-7 with all the off the field stuff. So to really count out the Raiders, I think people are, and it's funny because I was one of those who counted out the Raiders the last 2 years. So we're kind of flip flopping here, but yeah, I'm not counting this team out at all. And again, those three weapons are, you could argue, player for player, those could be the three best out of a receiving core in the entire league. Three, if you go player for player, their top three versus any other team's top three, I am willing to take the Raiders' top three right now. I
yeah.
think Hunter Renfrow is that good. I think Darren Waller is obviously stellar, right, when healthy. And Davante Adams is Davante Adams. I
He
mean,
is fun.
if you don't have him one, you have him two behind Cup. So I think that's, our take on Davante. I mean, you want to give a prediction? Do you still think the Raiders can make the playoffs next year?
I think they can, but if one team from the AFC West isn't going to make the playoffs, I'm going to say it's Las Vegas.
I mean, obviously, I know the Broncos hype is great, right? But I think we're and this will be a cool segue into our next topic, but yeah, the Broncos are a team. I think the Raiders and the Broncos are two teams that we should look at the AFC West that could actually miss out. Despite Russell Wilson's greatness, I think those are the two that we should look out for,
I
especially because of
agree.
just a little bit of the changes that they're going through, and the Chargers have a little bit more stability coming into next year finally.
See, but with the Chargers, I need to see it, man. Like
Yeah,
they
I know.
have such a
I
great
agree
team
with
on
you there.
paper every year, and it
Yeah.
somehow just goes wrong. So,
You're
but I
right.
agree.
Yeah.
I
So I
agree.
mean, that's what I'm saying. The Chiefs are as stacked as the AFC West is. My only sure hope is the Chiefs. As much as we say this, and here's the thing: the Colts stack up pretty well with the Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders, especially because they don't have to play the
I
AFC
agree.
West, right?
I'd say the Colts are better than the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm totally agreeing with you on that. And obviously, we know the Bills, what they can do. The Patriots, maybe just because they have to play the Jags, or sorry, not the Jets and the Dolphins. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
believe in
sure.
Mac Jones like that, but yeah,
I'm not sure record wise, we'll see those three teams, really close to it. But there is a team that I think could. I, I'm pretty, not sure about it, but I'm really making this into a hot take. The Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not sure they make the playoffs next year. I'm really
wow.
not.
I still
I
think they're a
and
contender.
and because here's the
Wow.
thing, right? They're having a really good free agency, right? So that's our next topic right here. It's the offensive lineman that they've brought in, Ted Karras. Is that how you say it? Karras?
Karras, Ted Karras.
Yeah. Karras, okay, Ted Karras from New England, right, the center. They get Alex Kappa from the Bucks, and then they get Lyle Collins recently. But here's what I will say: I think people are overrating the Collins signing a bit, just because he got outplayed by Terrence Steele last year, and also he didn't play in 2020, so he needs to revert back to his 2019 form for me to really say this is a top right tackle in football. But the other two signings I'm gonna give you is a slam dunk. So their right side is great, but their left guard I'm still concerned about. I don't like Quentin Spain. Dude
I
was
don't
absolutely
either.
mauled, right? So they're having a great free agency from that standpoint. They're probably going to get a good guard in the draft, but despite all of that, they were 5-4 when the Ravens were healthy, right? And I'm not so sure. I'm really not sure that
You know
they
what?
make the playoffs next year.
I'll respond to the hot take before saying what I want to say about the offensive line revamp. I would take a healthy Ravens team over this Bengals team.
Agreed.
The Bengals, I'll say they're a contender. I don't think they're going to repeat what we saw last year. And again, with the Ravens getting much healthier, it's going to be that much harder. Um, Super Bowl hangover, we could chop it up about that all we want, but at the end of the day, uh, I just don't think we're going to see what we saw from them last year. But if we take it back to 2020, the Bengals spending in free agency, it all signed with DJ Reader when he signed that 4-year, $53 million deal in Cincinnati. It may not sound important, but I think that DJ Reader contract, it represented, a shift in, what the Bengals typically do with, not spending money. But Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn, Cincinnati's owners, they've continued, just spending to build around that core of draft picks. You got Burrow, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Logan Wilson, Jesse Bates, guys like that they've drafted, and now you can see that they're kind of building around them. So last winter, it was Trey Hendrickson. He got a 4-year, $56 million deal, and he made good on it. He made the Pro Bowl. He looked really
Very
good
good
in
on
the
it.
postseason as well. And now it's the upgrades to 3 spots of the offensive line. Anish touched on it, Ted Karras and Alex Kappa. They stole both of them from the Pats and Bucks, respectively. And then they land Lyle Collins yesterday. Cowboys had to cut him due to their cap crunch. So Cincinnati, to me, they're showing a commitment to winning. And Joe Burrow, 1 year before he becomes eligible for that contract extension, they're really seeing what they have in him, which I really like. It's smart business from the Bengals. They're really maturing from, that franchise that was down in the dumps to, a force. And it's all because of that. It all circles back to that Reader contract. So hats off to the Bengals. I do like what they're doing. I think the concerns are there, but I like that they're finally spending money now.
Oh yeah, I agree with that too. I think, as a franchise, you want to put some confidence in, your team saying, hey, we're good now and we can get even better, right? It's not
Right.
just like let's wait till the draft, or, we're a homegrown type of team. And obviously that gives confidence to your start QB, and it also gives confidence to your fans. But again, I want to circle back to Cincinnati missing it. Like I'm really buying into it. At the more and more I look at it. Look,
I'm
if
not
you
going to
like
say
it, for
that.
example, right? Like if you told me the Niners would not make the playoffs in 2020 after that, Super Bowl year, and I know it was due to injuries, but again, it's just always it happens every year. There's always a drop off. It's not like, and it's not like I'm saying this team won't be good. It's just teams are getting better. That was my whole point, right? And that was like same thing Jack and I were talking about for the Ravens not making the playoffs last year. And again, I know injuries, but it's just the conference has gotten so much better, right? And I always express this, right? The hunters being the hunted. The Bengals were gunning for everybody. Like no one saw any of this, right? Like they literally could have, if they didn't get that 3rd and 27 with Jamar Chase, they would have been fighting with the Browns for the division week 18. So it's not like this team was, good throughout. They had a lot of not really breaks, but things go their way. And again, this conference got so much better. Their schedule is brutal. I'm telling you right now, it is. If you look at it, they have to play the division winners, right? They have to play like the Bucks, the Cowboys. I mean, like, just for NFC opponents, for example. Then obviously the Steelers twice, the Browns with Watson, probably one of those games he'll be there. The Ravens twice, right? I think they have to also play the Titans, right? Like all these hard teams that they have to play. They're going from like a 4th easiest schedule to the first place schedule. So to say that this team, as good of a free agency they're having, right? And this is all long-term stuff. They're still a really young team. I'm just saying for next year, I'm not confident in this team getting back to the Super Bowl, also let alone not even making the playoffs.
I think in my power rankings, I still believe in them. I had them at 4 just because I didn't really want to drop them any lower. I got the Ravens over them. I got the Chiefs and the Bills over them.
I mean, okay, look at the AFC North. Are they really the best roster? They weren't the best last year.
No, but you don't necessarily have to have the best roster.
Mhm.
So
That
I don't
and I
know.
think yeah, that comes. I've been one of those that say you don't need the best one to win, but I mean in terms of the regular season, yeah, it does matter. And I mean I think the Steelers have upgraded, right? They finally have a QB who can at least throw the ball down the field. And the Ravens again are going to be really healthy. I can't count out the Browns with Deshaun Watson, even with Brissett, like who's healthy, right? The a team with an injured Baker Mayfield was still, what did they go 8-9, and they were 0-6 in one possession game. So that could have easily been right 14-3. So I'm not counting, and they swept Cincinnati last year. So I'm not counting out fully Cincinnati, but I'm just saying like this team cannot be everybody's sure bet to get back to the divisional round or the conference championship. It just
It's an intriguing take. I think I'd have to wait until after the draft also just to kind of see what other teams do and see what they do. I got them second. This for the Steelers. I'm not the biggest fan of Trubisky. I don't see him winning much in the AFC. But you got Mike Tomlin. You got a stout defense. You're obviously going to have a chance. And then the Browns, as you just mentioned. So it'll be interesting. But if I had to bet on it right now, I would still say they're going to make the playoffs. I think it won't be as good of a year, but I still think if they'll manage to sneak in my opinion.
I think it's going to be, I mean, we looked at the AFC last year, right? And just how back and forth it was and how tight. Remember, like seed 4 till I think like 13, right? Were
Yeah.
separated by one game.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be even more this year. Like, think about it, right? Now you've got more teams that can even do that. I think Cincinnati falls, like, they, again, right? It came down to 1 or 2 games, and I think it flip flops for them. I really do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll probably like once the schedule is released, we'll actually do a game by game prediction for every team at that point. We'll see.
Yeah, I think yeah, but
It'll be
like
interesting to
again, there
see.
will be games that I just won't favor them in. I'm not favoring them at Pittsburgh. I'm not favoring them at Pittsburgh. I'm not favoring them at Baltimore. I'm not favoring them versus the Bucks. A lot of games that I'm just not willing to take them in right now,
Hmm.
despite all their success.
We'll
But
see. We'll see how it shakes out.
yeah, so again, we'll kind of round it out with the final topic here. The Titans got an interesting player, Bobby Trees, as the Rams fans like to call it. Robert Woods goes to them for a sixth round pick in 2023.
Yep.
So he is coming off a torn ACL, but he gives them that number 2 receiver that I guess the Titans really didn't have last year because Julio Jones was hurt so much, right? And also AJ Brown was. So him coming off an ACL, he's still ultra, last time we've seen him on the field, ultra productive, a great wide receiver too, can, catch the ball on all 3 levels. But yeah, what do you make of this move? Does it make the Titans, how much better does it make them?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Woods is a good receiver. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2019 and 2020 with the Rams. Obviously, had the torn ACL in November. It cut his season short after only 9 games. This comes after the Rams signed Allen Robinson to a $45 million deal last week. So it kind of, the writing was on the wall for Woods after that. So the Titans are taking on Woods' deal. He has 4 years and $60 million remaining, but a release after this season means no dead cap money. So they have an out. If Woods comes back healthy, I'd say he's a top 20 receiver. But the Titans need they need to change their style if they want to, really utilize him in the way that he should be utilized. Because last season, Tennessee ran the ball the most out of any team in the NFL. They ran the ball 551 times. And we saw why in the divisional round, because the Titans were trying to shelter Ryan Tannehill and he still threw 3 interceptions. So if Robert Woods is going to be featured, I think Todd Downing, their offensive coordinator, he has to open things up. Otherwise, I think this could end up exactly like the Julio signing or Julio trade. My fault. I think it could be a quick stop unless that offense really changes to, I guess, acclimate to Robert Woods' strengths. I think it'd end up being a short trip.
I mean, it's kind of weird that we're just writing off the number one seed in the AFC last year because considering how stacked it was last
Yeah.
year. But it's just, I mean, look at the other teams, man. Like I can't, I mean, no one even feared the Titans in the playoffs last year, right? And I think Robert Woods gives you that element, right? Coming off an ACL, I think he'll be fine. I think you're throwing the top 20 receiver term a little too loosely. I could probably name you 30 right now off the top of my head that are
Oh,
better than
30.
Robert
Okay.
Woods. Yeah. I mean, if you want, I could go, but I mean, to save time, probably will not. But if you guys want that on a graphic, I can easily do it because someone asked me to name 25 receivers better than OBJ on the Browns, and I did it within like 2 minutes. So it wouldn't be too hard for me to do it. You want me to maybe try it?
Yeah, go. Let's see it. Let's see it.
All right, I won't go in order. This isn't in order, but
All right.
Cooper Kupp, Davante Adams, Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, T Higgins. I would take T Higgins. Again, not in order. Jamar Chase. I don't know why I said T Higgins out of Hunter Renfro. Let's see. Debo Samuel, obviously. Okay. Why am I going so slow? Allen Robinson, Amari
Keep in
Cooper.
mind, this is a healthy Robert Woods we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah. Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper. Oh man, I'm losing count. Adam Thielen, Justin
about. 12,
Jefferson.
14.
That's 14.
Think so.
Okay. What else? Let me go through teams. Did I say D Hop already?
Yes.
Okay. Brandon Cooks, I would take over him. I would take Michael Pittman over him. I would take. Oh man, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would take Amon-Ra St. Brown over him.
Okay.
I would take. I would take Deontay Johnson over him. Um, Man, how much is that now? How much am I at?
18. You had two more.
Okay, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Those are for sure. Let's see. Man, it's hard to just keep thinking about the ones. Oh, Odell Beckham. I would take Odell Beckham over
OBJ
Robert.
over Robert Woods.
Well,
Interesting.
maybe not off the ACL, but yeah, healthy OBJ. I would obviously. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Stephon Diggs. Of course, I would
Yeah.
take.
No, you
Yeah,
said Stephon already.
I didn't say.
You didn't? All right.
Yeah,
22.
Stephon Diggs. Let's see. I'm kind of forgetting a couple. Jerry Judy, I would take over him.
Wow. Judy over Robert. Okay.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Mm.
This potential sky's the limit. And how much am I at? Oh
23.
man. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm struggling a little bit just to remember everybody, but let's see. Oh, Calvin Ridley, obviously. I already said Michael Thomas. DJ Moore for sure. So what am I at? 24?
25.
25. Okay. Yeah, I think 25. Okay, yeah. So maybe not 30, but 25.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that just because I don't want to take up too much time. But I guess, yeah, that is kind of the end of our episode. If you guys name any receivers that I forgot over Robert Woods, I'd be willing to hear it because, oh, no, I said Allen Robinson, did I?
You said Allen Robinson.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, right?
Did you say Godwin?
Oh, Godwin and Mike Evans. There you go. That's
There
two.
you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, you're not
Um,
forgetting anyone, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to say Chase Claypool. Honestly, yeah, I
Nah,
would. I would.
I'd take Robert Woods over Chase Claypool.
I would take if you can just avoid his stupid off the field stuff, I would. And also I would take Juju Smith-Schuster healthy. And Antonio Brown if you're counting that.
AB over Rob. Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, are you kidding?
We're saying everyone's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
100% I would take Antonio Brown. Oh, and AJ Brown. There you go. Why am I telling you? There's so many good receivers in football. CeeDee Lamb. There you go. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Some of those names are a little questionable.
But I think,
that 11,
I think all of them are good to go. But yeah, that's gonna kind of wrap up the episode. Again, I'm so excited. There's still so much more to have our questions answered. Where's Bobby Wagner going to go? Teron Armstead, right?
Oh,
the Browns
wow,
are apparently not done with Will Fuller and Danielle Hunter in talks. So there's so many things that could happen in the next, few weeks. And all I'm going to say is the NFL is going to look so different in September. Really, look at the QB carousel, right?
Everything is going to look so much different. I'm so excited.
Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, obviously, Matt Ryan. That's what, 5 out of the 32 starters, right? That's
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm probably forgetting another one, but
I couldn't count it on my hands to save my life. Like,
oh yeah,
there's
this
too
is
much
going to be a
movement.
really, really interesting season. But yeah, again, let us know your thoughts below. Again, we had a little fun with the 30 receivers over Robert Woods. I'm not hating. Please do not think I'm hating. He's a great receiver. It's just
Jack is about to put.
yeah,
Jack
oh
is
no,
about to
because of
come in
USC. But no, literally, like I had him on my fantasy team all those years ago when he had like 171 yards against Buffalo. I love the guy. It's just there's too many good receivers out there that I would probably take, and too many talented ones. Oh, and Cortland Sutton. There you go. Throwing another name out there. Oh, and Jalen Waddle. So I'm remembering all these names. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we've been the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast, and we will see you next time.